So this is an old beat up Epiphone Junior. I'm giving a quick rundown here, but what I'm showing today is the trick of how to get this pickguard back on here without putting fresh strings on it, which is a little tricky, but there's a simple trick. I didn't invent it. I'm not sure who did. I learned it on YouTube. Can't even remember where, but very cool. What is missing there? A gigantic chunk of wood. This is how I got this guitar. What's going on here is the prior owner had turned this or attempted to put an active boost on here. So this guitar came with this pickguard that covers all of this, and when I got it, most of it was in pieces, and this pickguard had been painted green. The pickguard originally was branded, you can't really see it through there now, it was painted poorly green. It's painted poorly copper now, but it's mostly because I was painting on top of a bad paint job. I sanded it slightly, but I didn't spend a lot of time trying to make this look too pretty. I did spend some more time digging the circuit that he built into here out of the front of the guitar, because he has a 9-volt battery and a small homemade PCB board. Actually, it's just a project board that he soldered some parts onto. And when I got it, this switch didn't do anything but turn the guitar on and off. And all these electronics weren't even installed in the control cavity at all, nor were there strings on or anything. So I was actually quite surprised. I thought this was originally just going to be an on-off switch that somebody had spent a long time. But then when I took the pickguard off, just because it was so nasty, I also discovered that while they built this to brand for Epiphone, made these pickguards and slapped them together, this pickguard going underneath this neck right here was making this fret buzz out a little bit. As soon as I took the pickguard off, it wasn't pushing that up anymore, and it actually went away. I relieved the pickguard just a little bit on the back side with a file right here. You can see, I'm hoping that's going to be enough, but if not, I'll just take the pickguard off again, maybe even make a newer, different one. But, so, when this was where the battery and all the electronics were located, you would have to remove every one of these screws to change the battery. Now, all of these electronics didn't work to begin with, so I had to do some things. So I took all of them out completely, and I shortened all the wires enough, and I trimmed the board down enough to get into the back of the guitar. So now I can shove the 9-volt battery and everything right in the control compartment here, which is much easier. You can see that the original Phillips screws were replaced with flatheads, but I have everything stuffed in there quite nicely, which I can come back and take another video. But right now, I want to get this pickguard back in place while all the screws are in place, and not permanently, but we may route out some more wood here since this is already butchered up. This is a basswood body or something. It's solid wood. It's not plywood, which some of the Epiphones actually are. But right now I'm going to get this pickguard back on here. But I don't necessarily want to waste a set of strings. So how am I going to do that easily? You could unwind all the strings and roll them all up and then try to put them back on. But what I'm going to do is the capo method. So I'm going to place a capo under string tension as high as I really can. We're going to do it at fret 14 there. And I'm going to place another capo down at like fret 1 here. So now I'm keeping the string tension on there. And then I'm going to use a trusty string unwinder and go ahead and loosen the strings. I'm going to pause for a second. Let's see if I can get it. So I'm working on the left end here while the tripod's recording over here. That's about one full wine. These are 12 to 1s. That was about 12 wines. I wouldn't go back and count, but approximately. This has got me almost there. Is it loose enough yet? Not quite. So what we're doing here is I'm pulling all the string tension through the two capos so I can pop the tailpiece off. Not quite. What am I missing? I need some more out of the G string. And the D string. Something still hanging on there. And what was the tighty? Just getting a little bit looser for putting it back on here. So now I got the whole bridge assembly off. All the strings are intact, wound on the post still. They're not going anything. We're here. They got pins through there. I just got to make sure that I keep this where I'm not tangling those and twisting those around. Now I can go ahead and remove the screws. I'll keep my screws in order here. Switch my camera one more time here. This guitar is not too important to keep the screws in the same order like this, but it's just habit now that I learned how to do this, which is I got a block of wood. You can't see the numbers. They're really worn off. Maybe you can see them a little bit. Old scrap block of wood, numbered. I take the screws off clockwise. I put them in order so I know I have an order of how to put them back and forth so they end up in the same spot. That's more important for a vintage guitar than it is for an old guitar, for a stupid Les Paul Jr. like this. But boy, once I got this little circuit working, this guitar is real cool. It's got, it appears to be a JFET preamp boost that he built into it, or she built into it, the previous owner built into it. And although it wasn't working when I got it, I studied the parts and I signal traced it through. And some of the things that were not allowing it to work to begin with, which I probably should have made a video, but I didn't know what I was doing to begin with. I was just trying to hack through it and see what I could get to work, and I did. Was the positive and negative weren't, leads were backwards on the battery, for one thing. I figured that out with a fluke by just tapping the battery to it backwards and having it work mysteriously, so that was kind of interesting. I just found one of the control cavity screws. And I know that because it's a different size than the rest of the screws. It's tinier. Control cavity screw right here. Next to the regular pickguard screw. Or maybe one of them's not supposed to be on here at all, but this is the little mini there. I'm not actually screwing these in to drive them home. I'm screwing about a half a turn just to hold them in my little place board here. This really is not the right screw right there. There's going to be one more of those too, I bet. Which are my two control cavity screws. So removing all these screws, including the pickup you're going to see, to get this pick guard on and off was not going to be very good to change the battery for this guitar if it ever went. Some other things that I did to improve the circuit that was designed in there is I added a stereo jack so that when the guitar is unplugged I'm cutting half of the battery off so it will not continue to drain the battery unless the guitar is plugged in. What else did we do to it? And this is all getting covered, but I'm just giving a quick wipe down. The pickup itself, I need to take these rings out off. Like I said, I was not anticipating this to be anything special. And then when I got the boost running, man, on a tube amp, that boost overdrives the tube so much that you can turn the volume all the way down and go from clean to like rock and distortion on a tube amp with just some moderate gain on there. It's really pretty sweet. Okay, we've got that much done. Let's see how tight this thing is now. Again, that's pretty tight. It's pushing that fingerboard, and if that's an issue, help if I take the volume and tone knobs off to get this into place, fit. Yeah, it's still pretty tight underneath the fingerboard. I don't think I'm done removing material from the top there, but I don't think I'm done taking this pickguard on and off either. A little bit more. Come on, boys. Really tight up there. Almost. I'm going to do it and loosen the neck just enough. This really does mean that that's pinching way too much if I do have to loosen this. But it all needs tightened up afterwards anyway, so there we go. Let's see if I'm lining up here first. Then I got to remember to tighten this back up, which is part of my post trip anyway. Okay, we got pickup back in place here. That was relatively easy. And putting our screws back in. Let me move this down. So future things that I might do to this, now the whole top is already got all these holes in it, is I may make a different pickguard leaving out this. I may cut this out completely underneath the neck if this continues to be a problem. I did shave that fret down slightly when I thought that was the problem to begin with, and then I figured out that this was pushing it forward towards the end there. I did put some relief, but I also added a little bit of paint on that pickguard too, which might have been the problem, although the pickguard may have been doing that to begin with. So now we got our pickguard almost installed, and we have not removed the strings from the guitar. So will I be able to get them back on, is the question. When I'm putting the volume pots back on here, I'm twisting them all away as far as I can so I have a spot to line 10 up on with them. I like 10 to be in my view when I'm the player of the guitar. So both of these are turned all the way up. 10 is going to be looking towards my eyes when they're turned all the way up like that. Volume tone, this is the active boost right here, which it gets so active you have to turn this down. These are 500K pots too, and they're the larger pots, which is unusual sometimes in imports. Okay, now we got our strings still attached to the saddle here. Ta-da! And then I'm leaving my we have a pickguard on. We did not have to change the strings. I'm removing my capo from 14. I'm removing the capo from 1. I have a little bit of adjusting, tuning to do, but the pickguard's back on. The strings did not ever come off the tuning post up here. So everything stayed wound on. What do we got here? Any serial numbers or anything? I can't even tell where this is made. This one is... Can I read it on here like this? K0406000487. So, not easy to read that. Yeah, this camera's not great close up. Now you know how to change a pickguard without removing the strings. And this only works on Les Paul style guitars, although you could take the whole tailpiece off of the Strat. I've done it before. Take the screws out, take the springs out. That's a real pain in the butt too. It's easy to change the strings, but it depends on what you're doing on the guitar. Telecasters, you can remove the whole bridge if you wanted to, but it's quite easy on a Les Paul Junior. The one lightning bolt right there. The Les Paul standards also do it. Most Les Pauls you can do it on. SGs, just take the whole tailpiece off. So that's the trick of the day.